Yep.
All right. The Affordable Housing Subcommittee meeting is now commenced. It's May 29th at 4:10. This meeting is being held virtually. For those who are participating remotely, we ask you mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback or background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone. So that and that you only use the chat function to request to speak. Also, to comply with the state open meeting laws, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio. So the first item is the call to audience. We only have one person in the audience. Tamaya Jones, is that Tamika Jones? Did you care to speak? No, it looks like not. So I think this meeting today is going to be pretty quick. Okay, so the second agenda item is to discuss the proposed changes to the CEHD mission statement, specifically the item number 2, which I can pull it up. Can you make me a presenter? Or do you, Rachel, can you pull up the mission and goals from the last CEHD meeting in April?
Sure, I can pull that up. 1 second. And I also made you a co-host too, Jim. So if you have it.
I have it up. I
Okay.
can share it.
Perfect.
Okay. Oops, I don't want to show that. I don't want to show that. All right. You guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the item in particular is item number 2. So it did say protect barrios, communities from rapid change and displacement, as well as structural disinvestment. Specify the harm the city of Tucson has inflicted and advocate for efforts to repair harm. So I think we should come back with either some alternate wording, or if we just want to get rid of it, we should say we don't agree with this.
No.
But Marianne, I know you had some conversations with Ray after the last meeting, right?
Yeah. First of all, we had agreed on this as a group already.
Yeah.
And then they went in and changed this, which we didn't agree as a commission that we were going to be working on. So,
Yeah, we nixed it too. So I mean, that's the process wasn't great.
so I think the alternative wording would be to you know, collaborate with landlords and developers in providing equitable, accessible, and quality affordable. Protect the barrios and communities from rapid change and displacement, as well as disinvestment, thereby reducing or avoiding future harm. That's all I'm willing to do. If it says what it says, you guys, I'm leaving the commission. I just can't, I can't go with the city of Tucson has inflicted harm. I just can't go with it. And I've pondered this. And I just don't want to be on a commission that gets into that, what I consider negative bullshit. And I understand that there has been harm and it's been horrible. But I think, you know, protecting the barrios and communities from rapid change and displacements, as well as structural disinvestment, is taking care of the future for any harm cause. So, you know, if we say disinvestment, comma, thereby, you know, eliminating any future harm, I'm okay with that. But
Maggie, where's your head on this?
I agree with Marianne. I'm not comfortable with, I feel like we need to make comments that are more positive and more, moving to the future. I kind of worry about, what will that look like to specify the harm and repair that? I mean, what do you do with all the people that lost their homes for the Tucson Community Center? I mean, how to, give them back their homes? I don't know. Give them the TCC, yay. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just feel like that's so large, and I'm not sure that that's really our role. I don't feel that it is our role. How can we, I do
Well,
think though gentrification is a huge issue, and how do we, moving forward, make sure that, that we have some policies in place that protect, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of predatory, what I call predatory, solicitors, they, go to these neighborhoods and, just even right now, we have a small rehab and repair program that, that is, we have so many homeowners in these gentrifying neighborhoods that cannot afford even small repairs, and then those small repairs, could become large repairs, and then that's when they're forced to sell their home, and that's when gentrification helps. So how do we make sure, maybe more positive would be, how do we ensure that these neighbors, these, homeowners, can age in place and stay in their home, something like that. I don't know.
So this
But-
is a big issue. This is a city issue.
Right.
Only the mayor and council should have the authority to say that the city of Tucson has inflicted harm and will advocate efforts to repair harm. That is not our job. It is not our job to wag our finger like that. I think it's what we're saying is, if you could go back to that.
Yeah, I put it into a Word document so I can make changes on the fly as we talk
Yeah,
about it.
I don't think that, I think it's, our original should be help protect barrios and communities from rapid change and displacement, as well as structural disinvestment, thereby reducing the potential for future harm, period. Not by the city of Tucson, just period.
Are we specifically though talking about gentrification, and should we use that word? I know that gentrification, God, it means so many things to people, and I would like to even finding a common definition that everyone can, grasp and advocate for, I think is a big thing. But I feel like, I'm wondering, I don't know, is this bigger than that? Is this encompassing other things?
I think the rapid change and displacement does encompass other things like transportation, rapid transit, things like that can just, cut through. So I don't know that that's, necessarily gentrification.
But we
Just-
talk about how, but we're focused on housing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. But, you can destroy a neighborhood by running, a freeway or, a Campbell Avenue that's turned into a bridge named after someone through it. So,
Mhm.
it's not just, wealthier people moving in. I think it can be other things too.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think that.
well, I'm on the same page as you guys. I was very uncomfortable with this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking about, well, if I had to go to mayor and council
Mhm.
and basically advocate that some group had been harmed and that the city needs to pay reparations or something, which is how I was looking at the efforts to repair harm. It was like, there's no way I'm gonna be ready to, I'm gonna do that.
Mhm.
Um,
And I
And-
think, go ahead, I'm sorry, Jim.
well, no, it's just, I mean, I want to look at it, I want to look forward in terms of what are things that we can do to protect the
Mhm.
housing and to generate new housing and not. It's okay to look backwards in terms of lessons learned from past mistakes, but
Mhm.
I don't know that. I mean, it's just going to be that is how do we keep from repeating mistakes that have happened before? Right?
Yep.
Right, right.
Maybe the proposed should say, help the city of Tucson protect barrios and communities. That maybe that we start that way.
Well, I think everything in here is specific to the city of Tucson. I don't know that needs to be said. I mean, this is it's a city commission. And
Mhm.
so, um, I like this proposed change.
Okay,
Um,
I just really, that statement above just opens up a whole can of worms for the city and for us, and it's way bigger than us.
yeah,
Mhm.
agree.
I agree.
I think the mayor and council are the only people who can say they inflicted harm and what it was. That the city has done that, I don't think that's our job. So do we need to vote on this?
Yeah, we probably should. So, do you want to make a motion that we change, item number 2 on the goals from the original to the new?
Well, the original was already changed.
Well, that
So-
was what was proposed. This is what was originally proposed by the other committee, but we did not accept that change.
I think it's my understanding that every committee is also gonna review this and we're gonna go back to the main meeting with our ideas or?
I thought
Yeah.
to specify the harm the city of Tucson has inflicted was the line that came from the other committee. I thought protect barrios and communities from rapid change and displacement, as well as structural disinvestment, we had already approved. Am I wrong? That's
Yes,
why they're different colors?
yes. This is the only thing that was, this
Yeah.
portion here was the only part that was changed.
Yeah, okay, so, okay,
Outside of the convention center, I mean, usually when I think of this type of stuff, it's because there's like a freeway going through town. Right? Or something like that. I don't really think of it as city buildings, taking out a lot of housing. Is there other examples besides the convention center that you guys are aware of?
I think that there's been concerns, for instance, the housing, that was developed in downtown Tucson, it resulted in a lot of displacement in those areas. So I think there has been some, and I'm not sure if there's been any commercial like Walmarts or Costco's, that have done anything like that, but
Yeah, but that's different than eminent domain. I think that's the, when you think of, like a commercial strip center, I mean, there has to be an agreement for the people to move out. If there's somebody who holds out, I mean, that's like when you get the Up movie, right? Where
Yeah.
there's like a whole mall built around one house because they held out. I mean, there's real life examples of that, but everybody else agreed to. So you can't, in that case, nobody was forced out. I think when you have eminent domain, where the city or some form of government says, well, we know you guys live here, but we think there's better use for this. And so we're gonna take your property and give you X for that. Goodbye. I think that's what I was thinking that this was referring to.
Yeah, well, there's different kinds of forcing. So.
Hmm.
So
What was-
did we make the proposal and then vote?
Yeah, so do anyone want to make a proposal to change it to what we have here as a proposed?
Can I ask what Ray was referring to? Because I know she was the one that proposed the specify the harm the city has inflicted and advocate for efforts to repair harm. Is she specifically talking about like the TCC or anything else?
That was the example she gave, because I asked for an example. And that was the one that she gave.
Okay. Has there been anything more recent than that where the city has? Because that was eminent domain.
That was eminent domain and it happened, what, 60, 70 years ago?
That many?
60 years ago? I don't know, was it in the 70s or 50s, 60s?
Maybe 50 years ago.
Maybe 50 years ago, okay.
I'm sure there's been roadways and, you know, like a lot of cities do.
But I want to take it back to this is, I mean, we're, you know, we're the housing, right? Commission, so, you know. That's a perfect example of, you know, the TCC is an example of eminent domain and the city of Tucson specifically, you know, displacing, I don't know how many households. And then, you know, because, and it's like a value statement, right? It was not considered valuable and then someone decided that, you know, Barrio Viejo and Army Park and all of those neighborhoods were valuable and now, you know, you couldn't move back there if you wanted to, so. I don't know, I think our proposed, sounds good, the barriers and communities from rapid change and displacement. Do we wanna say? Do we wanna say eminent domain, because that's what the city really has the power to do, that would displace?
Well, like when I think, I have not heard. There's some things happening, right? So there's like the light rail stuff that they're talking about putting into the airport and up Oracle. And the
Mhm.
widening of the streets and the widening they did on Broadway and Grant. I mean, that has definitely displaced people. The other, you know, potential, and something that I think is more common just from a housing perspective, is you take a building that is functionally obsolete, but people still live there, and tear it down to build more housing. I see that a lot up in Phoenix, where especially some of the, like the old military housing and stuff, that's all affordable housing now. They tear it down and they build 3 or 4 times the density. And so it's, you know, the new housing is obviously, it still kind of meets the same criteria. The new housing is obviously far superior to what was there before. So it's not always a negative thing. But I'm just struggling to identify examples of where this can happen going forward.
I don't think we need to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, we just want to say that basically, you know, we're going to be looking at that. And listening, you know, to people who think that's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to figure it out at all.
Right.
Or, you know,
I like the idea of somehow being a little bit more proactive in even, you know, supporting, like I go back to the whole, zoning and I always forget the freaking word, density issues. And that we're having, the phone calls that I get a lot from, they think that the land trust can come and save these neighborhoods that are on the Sunshine Mile, for instance, and that they, are afraid that developers are gonna come and build 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 story buildings and, kind of put these neighborhoods like San Antonio, the San Antonio neighborhood specifically, for instance, that they're gonna build something that will, take away their privacy, etc. And at the same time, we have such a housing crisis and we need to start really supporting higher density and somehow, telling a good story about why it's so important to start embracing these ideas. I don't know. I feel like, we need to do more on that. And maybe that's not our role either, but somehow supporting, those higher density projects because it's a need. And that's what's also driving up the, price of housing so much, these 3, 4, 5 story shouldn't just be affordable rentals. Why don't we also think about affordable homeownership in more like multi-family affordable homeownership?
Right.
We need to start embracing other models that will help to, create, increase our inventory. And I feel like that's something that we're not talking too much about yet. I feel like that's, the whole ADU thing, when it was, we were advocates for ADUs, and the pushback that we got were just a lot of people who, didn't want it in their backyard, and they just, were imagining the worst thing possible. And anyways, I feel like maybe, I don't know if there's a bullet point in there about supporting policies that embrace, higher density, maybe, or specifically, zoning regs that are where there's a lot of pushback. I don't know if I'm being clear, but I feel like,
Yeah.
and maybe like it's not our role, but I feel like, the commission should in some way do that.
I think it kind of does that in a roundabout way, Maggie. I can pull it up again. Okay. So develop and preserve affordability for Tucson, including renters, homeowners, and those without housing. So you can kind of read between the lines. Say in order to develop new housing, we got to reduce regulations and make it easier and so on and so forth. And then the fourth one that we just added was serve as a forum for community collaboration and education on the issues of equitable, accessible quality.
Yeah, I guess that's the one. Yeah, that I'm kind of talking about. Collaboration and education on issues of equitable, accessible, and quality housing.
Yeah. All right, well. Does
Yeah,
one of you
I have
want to
one
make,
more question on this because of what Maggie said. Can you put that back up again? Sorry,
the,
Jim. The proposed,
which one?
the proposed,
All the goals?
no, just the proposed one that we're making.
Yeah,
So, should our proposed be support policies that protect barrios and communities from rapid change?
Or is that
And
the main?
placement as well as structural, yeah. Yeah. I think that is. I think that's a good one, actually. And then disinvestment, thereby reducing potential, yeah, I like that.
I do too.
Yeah,
Thanks, Maggie, for talking. I was actually listening. heard that and I thought, well, that's what we should be doing.
All right, so there's three of us. Who wants to make a motion on the new language?
I'll make a motion.
All right.
It's one or the other, right?
Second it.
Second,
All right,
all in favor?
everybody in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
yeah.
Okay. Hey, Mike, do you have anything you want to chip in here?
No, thanks for asking. Because Mary Ann, when you at the beginning, when you were giving out some possibilities, I was really interested in kind of getting a copy, getting a look at it on the screen as to what you were saying. But it looks, to me, everything's working well here. And
Okay.
you three vote, I don't. So.
I know. All right, I'm gonna send this to the group as a proposed change.
And then, it'll be on our agenda for the full commission.
Yep.
Okay.
Hopefully. We're supposed to have that meeting, we're supposed to have that meeting right now, but I think it got pushed to tomorrow.
Mm,
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
So our next agenda item is discuss. So we don't actually have anything here, and Sarah, this is going to be an open discussion, but one of the things that the mayor asked us to do was to review the affordable housing plans from other cities and see if there's anything that we could cherry pick that would be good for us. So there was a presentation. I guess, do any of you, are any of you aware of affordable housing action plans from other cities that we should look at? The one, there was one that was brought up a couple of times at a presentation. I'm trying to remember what the city was. Hang on, see if I can figure it out. It was a presentation that was given as a continuing education thing for real estate agents here in Tucson. And they had this guy, Nolan Gray, who presented, who's the research director of California YIMBY and land use regulation. It was the Power of Real Estate Summit. He had a couple of really good examples of housing plans that didn't just focus on affordable housing. They focused on a lot of other things that would help incentivize housing, all types of housing, including for sale, single family, workforce, market rate. But Sarah, do you have any ideas or suggestions on that? You're on mute.
No, I'm pretty familiar with Nolan Gray. I don't know what plans you're referencing. Happy to kind of reach out for his presentation if you have the info from, did you attend that session?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you just remember him bringing up 2 examples of plans that provided a action plan for more detailed housing stuff.
Yeah, and I actually thought he would be a really good presenter at the CEHD meeting as well.
I think he costs money.
Yeah, if we have him for 20-30 minutes on a Zoom meeting, and I can't imagine it'd be that much of it. But maybe, I mean, we could ask him.
I mean, I'm familiar with lots of various housing plans. Every community does them differently. You know, some do like what we have with our housing affordability strategy. You know, other more resort town communities across the West have some sort of blueprint plans, right? Where they really kind of dive into a needs assessment and then setting out goals, right? For what needs to be built, kind of a market analysis as well. Yeah, I guess what are you hoping to get us as staff to present just sort of do like a case study and show what we find and what we research?
Yes,
You
that's
know,
one approach.
The Cambridge Housing Authority has been in the news a lot. They've been pretty, I was just trying to look it up. They've been pretty aggressive and creative in, buying properties. And who was the other one? You guys know that article I sent out a while ago about that one city that was also buying up properties so that they wouldn't be sold to developers. Let me see it, because I just sent that out to
And just to clarify, just so that I can try to help you more prepared for the next meeting, but this was something that the mayor had requested, like from your
The
retreat.
retreat, yeah. So, I mean, I don't mind reviewing other housing plans as well, just to see, if there's things that jump out as being something that wasn't necessarily covered in the HAST plan. There may only be like one or two good ideas, but
Well, I know that the city of Lakes I don't know what state they're in. They're a community land trust. And I can't remember, I've talked to them and I can't remember exactly what they do, but they go in and help people who have, who are homeowners who have maybe, deferred maintenance issues or tax, liens, etc. And they buy them out in exchange for, somehow putting these houses into the community land trust, which is then perpetual affordability. And I wonder if that's something that could be looked into too. I know we think about it just takes money, right? We just need money. But I know that's something that we've looked into a little bit. But
okay, so I just sent you guys the Board of Greater Cincinnati Development Authority, that article that was in NPR, so I sent it again. And then the Cambridge Housing Authority is pretty active and trying to be innovative also around affordable housing. Are you guys there?
yeah,
Yes.
I'll get a copy of this presentation as well. Maybe we can, because he talked about housing plans from, I think it was like Sacramento, Oregon, and there was one other that he thought were good examples, and maybe we could try to start with those.
Oregon would be good. And I think probably some communities in Washington, the state of Washington would be good too.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh, okay, my audio keeps cutting in and out. All right, well, maybe I think the action item here is let's come up with a couple Sarah, if there's a couple you think that we should be looking at, well, let's try to track down. I don't know, I would say no more than 5, but 2 to 3 housing plans from other cities and start with those. If we think
Well,
that's
the one that I just sent is about home ownership and rental housing of single families, so that might be a good one to include.
okay. So let's,
Does it have to be like city plans, housing plans? Because there have been other, like, just groups that have come together and, I remember, I read articles from years ago and then I only can remember portion of it, but there's a neighborhood, I think somewhere in like Oakland, California or something, that maybe I've got the wrong city, but where they're basically the neighborhood is taking it back and kind of creating ownership of the neighborhood, including, purchasing as a group these houses and,
Well, that's something good for you to look up.
Yeah, I gotta remember. I'm very bad, but I can look it up. It was pretty cool.
Somebody just put something in the chat.
it's
There's
not like
something
it
in there,
was.
DC and, who's Annika? Oh, Annika, added stuff to the chat.
Sarah, have you reviewed the Governor Hobbs housing plan?
I think I took a peek at it. Yeah, it's like the action plan for the state.
Was there anything good in there that we should be thinking about or looking at?
Not anything that like we haven't already kind of discussed. I think, yeah, I mean, we can, I guess, what is the ultimate ask? Do we want to create another plan? Is it like do we want to update the HAST? Or like, I guess, what is the goal of researching all these other things? Is it to just see what they do and then try to come up with specific recommendations from those plans, or is it to recommend a new plan? I guess kind of so that I know what I'm researching to pull together for you all.
It sounded like the mayor wanted to know, about some good ideas that may be out there. I don't know if she wanted any recommendations, but I think the recommendations were like, where should the mayor and council be looking? That's the feeling I got from that. I don't know, Jim, maybe it's more detailed than that.
No, I agree. That was basically it.
Yeah. And so I don't think she really wanted us to analyze anything or make any plan changes or recommendations to plan changes. I think she just wanted us to do the research and present her with some materials, and then she might say, go work on it, who knows, but I didn't get the idea that she wanted us to work on anything. I think she's more interested in knowing more.
All right, well, I'll see if I can dig up some couple things. Sarah, if you have a couple things you think we should review, and let's try to come up with, I guess, some options on what we want to look at going forward.
Yep. We can do this and have this on as an agenda item on the next meeting.
Yeah.
And Jim, just once you kind of pull what Nolan had mentioned in his presentation, I also have his book, so I could look in there and see if there's any things in the book that call out. But and then we can kind of I can try to put a little presentation together just showing what these other municipalities do, and yeah, like definitely can sort of show all of it. I mean, there's a whole world, there's a whole kitchen sink of things to do, right? And it's all specific. Like, I'll just say there's things, if we're looking at California plans or Oregon plans, they have a completely different legislative environment than we do. And so I don't know if shedding, you know, is it worth it to spend time on looking at things that we can't do, or is it worth it to do that and then help to continue shed light onto those issues that we face? And then I see Annika mentions, yeah, Annika, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can just email me any examples that you know of from other cities. I'm totally open to receiving those. And just send them to me, though. Don't send them to the full commission, so that we don't have any issues with open meeting law. But yeah, we'll pull something together, and then we'll just kind of talk about it at the next meeting and see where it goes. Like, you know, is it to say, cool, our HAS plan's great, or this is where it's lacking? And then, you know, we'll just sort of see what kind of comes from that.
I think the mayor was interested in being able to have power as the city and not as a state. So I think it's looking at these smaller communities like the one I sent, you know, where the community and the town, the council decided to take this kind of action. And the Cambridge also Housing Authority, you know, it's what can you do within the city versus what does the state of Oregon do, or you know what I mean? Portland, Oregon might be a great place for us to be looking at what they're doing as a city.
Yeah. All right. Are you guys good to move on?
Yep.
There's one more thing I want to talk about. So the next agenda item is let's talk about future agenda items. So there's something I just want to ask for some feedback here. I don't want to talk about this topic, but is this something you guys would be interested in reviewing? So I've been putting together, there's a like a point of feedback that I get a lot with when I'm working with out-of-state developers is it costs about 15 to 20% less to build in Texas than it does in Arizona. And you know, I've tried to understand why that is, and I've also heard statistics that as much as 50% of the total cost is due to government regulations. So I started going back, and I've worked with a couple different developers to put together this list, and it's basically new construction fees and government-related costs for multifamily projects in the city of Tucson. And I broke it up into 5 categories. So there's actual government fees, which these are paid directly to the city, the county, or the state. There's zoning related costs. This is specific to affordable housing related costs. So this would not apply to, these would not necessarily apply to market rate projects. Other soft costs, and then the last one is future costs due to the new building code, which is
Fabulous. Thank
being
you.
reviewed.
Yep.
So
Is there a way to look at what the changes on those from?
This is the change. This is, well, these are all new costs.
They're new.
These are
Okay.
all new. These are
Okay.
ads above what you would currently.
Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think, yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, like soft costs, I mean, you know, some of these things we can't do anything about. Land cost, financing costs, architecture design. I was thinking about putting in developer fees. So, you know, there's a lot of little things like that that we have no control over. But if you look at this list, there's very few levers that the city of Tucson has. And this whole thing, there's like 2 or 3 different things that they can control. So there's not a ton that the city can do, but it's an interesting, I think it's an interesting exercise.
Well,
So,
yeah, let's talk about it at the next meeting, because under the other soft costs, I think there are things that can be done.
yeah, so I'm waiting for a few more pieces of feedback from a couple individuals. I'll send it out to us to review at our next meeting. And I think once we get everybody's kind of blessing and sign off, maybe we can present it to the overall commission with what our recommendations are.
Is there a way to compare it to Texas, like the same development in Texas? Is there any way to do that, to document that 15 or 20%, whatever, increase?
I maybe. Some of the items, yes, some of them, no. Like, you know, we know, like different cities have different rules. So in Houston, they don't have zoning codes. There's no zoning codes whatsoever. People can do whatever they want. You know, Texas also, like the state of Arizona charges sales tax on the total contract amount. State of Texas doesn't do that. In fact, most states don't do that. Arizona is one of the few states that does. So, you know, that adds about 5% right off the bat as the sales tax.
Well, even if it's just kind of asterixing or, you know, the things that like others, especially when you're saying most states don't. Or
Mhm.
most, I don't know.
Yeah,
think-
I can,
yeah, I
I can
think
identify
having-
some of that.
Having those footnotes as part of this is a good idea.
Yeah, I'll put some context in the comments.
That's
Um,
very interesting.
So, the other agenda item that I'd like to, put on for our next committee meeting is the state statutes regarding impact fees or development fees, and then some of the stuff that I've been delving into.
Okay. I'll check with you before we put out that agenda. Sarah,
Okay.
you have that note?
Yes.
And Jim, for the actual commission meeting, we were gonna present that letter or whatever to the mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and Neto didn't put it on our last meeting, so I don't want that to get lost. Can we please put that on the
I will make sure that
commission
happens.
agenda this time and make sure, I don't know what's happening, but making sure that you guys look at the commission agenda before the meeting so that everything gets on it that should be on there.
Yeah, I'm coordinating with, let's see if Allison. Okay, so she wants to do a meeting Friday afternoon.
When is our next full commission meeting?
It's next week, I believe.
Okay. I thought you said tomorrow and I'm like, what?
No, it's the 6th. It's a week from Thursday.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hi.